Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel and the podcast. It is 7 a.m. East Coast time. It is Tuesday, December 3rd, and we're going to break down this 7-game NBA slate for you today. Before we do that, if you are new here, welcome to the channel. My name is Sal Vetri, and I do indeed cover daily fantasy sports in the NFL, NBA, WNBA, and the MLB streets. NFL content going to be going out all week long for NFL Week 13, but we have NBA content every single day on the channel here, 7 games today. Before we get started, if you see any value from this video, or if you're somebody who has been watching these videos, feel free, and I really do urge you to subscribe. It's totally free, and it helps me as a content and independent content creator the most. Discussed yesterday on the show that about 51 to 54% of people who watch aren't subscribed, and then saw a ton of comments coming in that, I didn't even know. So I really do appreciate the people that went in there and hit that red subscribe button. And also, if you subscribe, enter into the contest all week long. Whoever your favorite 6K play of the day is, 6K play of the day, on Friday, I'll take up all the tallies, however many people commented. I'll spin a big wheel, and I'll pick a winner for a $20 PayPal. So be sure to include your Twitter handle, your PayPal, just a way for me to contact you. To enter that contest, you must be a subscriber. So hit the subscribe button. To enter on the audio version, if you're interested, you can do it via the podcast review. Leave a 5-star and then leave a review. Who is your 6K play of the day? Be sure once again to leave a Twitter handle or to leave a PayPal, just something that really, so I can contact you. So thank you. You can do that. Linked up down below is my exclusive content over on Patreon, NBA projections every single day for the NBA season, as well as a ton of NFL content going out every single week. You can check that linked up down below. And then follow me over on Instagram, Sal Vetri. I'll release exclusive content, sneak peeks over there for my Patreon stuff. I'll make some things free, and then only people on Instagram will know that it is free for that hour or day. And you can follow me on Twitter at SalVetriDFS. That's it for me. Let's get into the 7-game slate. Again, hit that subscribe button and the 5-star rate and review on the podcast. Who is your 6K play of the day? Leave that comment down below. So, starting with injury news. In Cleveland, Chetty Osman right now is the only person who seems to be on the injury report, questionable with a back. This would help Kevin Porter Jr. or Larry Nance. There's other ways they can go around this lineup. They can play smaller, but I think they would probably just put in, they were already thin at small forward, really thin. I mean, that's why Osman, who has been terrible this season, is playing 30 minutes a game. So I think Porter Jr. would step into his place in a fine matchup against Detroit at the 3. He is going to be 3,500 today, Porter Jr. So if he was to start, he might be early value, not great value, not slam dunk value at small forward position, but early value. In Houston, Daniel House Jr. is going to be questionable with an illness. Ben McLemore, who just went off in the last game, chalky Ben McLemore, is now priced up to the 5K range. He will be the biggest beneficiary starting in place of Daniel House, who went from doubtful to questionable, so maybe Daniel House might actually play in this one. PJ Tucker, Austin Rivers would also see more increased run in the rotations and maybe changes to where they usually play. And then Clint Capella is probable for this one, has missed about the last, I would say, what is today's date? Once again, the 3rd, he's missed about the last 2 weeks. You have, for the Clippers, JaMychal Green, really just a rotational player at this point, questionable with the tailbone. Mo Harkless, Landry Shamet, just those secondary minutes would be impacted there. Anthony Davis probable with the shoulder injury, as they always must tell us. He has a tough matchup against Denver today. The Lakers should be a fun game there. For Miami, Goran Dragic is out with a groin. Kendrick Nunn, Tyler Hero, Justice Winslow will all benefit. And then also Dion Waiters, just uncertain. His 10-game suspension was over, but he did not play in their previous game on Sunday, I believe. So it's unclear is what my reasoning is. He just did not play. So we'll see if we get any news if he plays or not. If he doesn't, Tyler Hero will continue to see nice run, as well as Kendrick Nunn. So with New Orleans, Derek Favors is out with a personal reason. We saw Jahlil Okafor start the last game, and Jackson Hayes started the second half over Okafor, so keep an eye on who starts there. I would have interest in, once again, whoever starts, but Hayes seems to be a little bit more stable in his minutes production. And then Kendrick Williams is out with an ankle, so this is actually important. You have a power forward out in Okafor, or center out, power forward / center out in Favors, and now in Kendrick Williams. You have some other injuries. Darius Miller has been out for a while now on this team. That's going to impact just the overall minutes. I think you see Brandon Ingram at the 4 today, which would be very beneficial. That would probably start Josh Hart or Redick at the 3, and then you just play a little bit smaller. But Brandon Ingram at the 4 is very good for him at his price point. Nicola Melli would be the other player to pick up some more minutes in the rotation. Going over to Orlando, Michael Carter-Williams is doubtful with a hip. You'll still see Markelle Fultz, who's been balling out as of late, with a really good matchup now against Washington. Fultz is playing like 30 minutes a game, so keep an eye on Markelle Fultz, DJ Augenstein getting those backup point guard minutes as well. For San Antonio, LaMarcus Aldridge has missed the last game. He's questionable with thigh injury. Rudy Gay would continue to start at the 4. Jakob Poeltl at the 5, and then Trey Lyles has worked his way back into the rotation due to the Marcus Aldridge injury. Kyle Lowry continues to be doubtful with a thumb injury. We'll get Fred VanVleet starting still in a difficult matchup against Miami, and Norman Powell. And then Mo Wagner for Washington. He's going to be questionable today with an ankle. Thomas Bryant priced all the way down against Orlando today. Still no Vooch for Orlando, but they have Aaron Gordon now back fully healthy. No Alfredo Mino as well for Orlando, I should point out. So maybe not as tough of a matchup as it usually would be against Orlando for the fill-ins for, questionable Mo Wagner. But Thomas Bryant, Davis Bertans, and Rui Hachimura would all see more minutes at the 4 and the 5 if you had no Mo Wagner in today. So those are all the injury news. Keep an eye on all of them. And then as always with the NBA, injury news, if you're new to watching my NBA videos, it will change all day, so I recommend following Fantasy Labs over on Twitter or myself over on Twitter at SalvageDFS, where I'll post updates as well as my content over on Patreon. I do post projection updates all throughout the day up until lock and even after lock. If there's any major news, I'll update them usually within the hour. Or immediately, usually, but definitely within the hour. So, heading over to the target offense sheet, this is what we have for today. Just briefly going to look at it before we get into our early interest. The highest total on the slate, as you might expect, 2 games here. So, one, the Clippers, a 119.25, and then you have another team in Dallas, a 118.75. And both these teams are playing defenses that are porous, to say the least. So the Clippers, 119.25. I like this spot. I'm going to like both of the big names here, Kawhi and Paul George. I like Paul George a little bit more at a cheaper price point, and just both of them playing similar minutes with similar production right now. So I'll take the guy who's cheaper in Paul George at, I believe, just 8,200 today. You have a nice matchup and at least a cheap, I would say, price point today, or cheaper price point today for Harrell, but it's just not a spot that I feel all the need in getting to. So just track throughout the day if anything happens with Kawhi resting for some odd reason. Lou Williams at his price point is just very meh to me. I think that Pat Bev is a cheap value play. A built-in value is interesting, so I really rank this team right now probably Paul George, Kawhi, and then Pat Bev for me. Would get to Harrell and Lou Williams as secondary options, but nothing stands out. On the Portland side, yeah, you have a priced up, and really he's been a little bit priced up as of late, Hassan Whiteside at 8K, but it's probably one of the top 2 spots on the slate for his center if he can stay out of any sort of foul trouble. And the big news for Hassan Whiteside that I think is maybe going a little bit underreported is that his blocks are just going through the roof, right? He had the 10-block game, I think, a couple of days back. And you want to know why? Well, I'm not trying to pick on Carmelo Anthony's defense because there's a lot of guys in the league who don't play defense. Carmelo Anthony's just porous. But when Carmelo Anthony is defending in front of you or to the 4, guys will get by him and you'll have much better shots or much better chances at blocks. There is no coincidence that these blocks for Hassan Whiteside have spiked over the last week and a half. That is why they have. He's playing alongside Carmelo Anthony. It could be another person that's not named Carmelo Anthony that is terrible at defense. If you're just letting guys get by you and they're getting to the center more, there's going to be more blocks. But then there's also going to be more risk in terms of fouls for a guy like Whiteside who will foul. So I think it's a good spot for Whiteside. On this Portland team, the names that stand out are Damian Lillard probably the most, and then Whiteside at 8K. It's just you have to prioritize your lineups around him. I'm not too sure I want to do that with some guys that we'll talk about on the early interests at like the $6,500 range. So right now I think he's fine. Want to look more into it. He's very much reliant right now on those blocks, but I do think they keep coming. I just might be a little bit risky. The other high total, lots of high totals on the slate today. A 234 game total here is the highest on the slate, where Dallas is a 3.5-point favorite. 118.75 over New Orleans was a 115.25 team implied total. On the Dallas side, yeah, give me Luka. He's back down to like 11,300. I think that's cheap. I think that's affordable in a matchup where players don't play defense. Lonzo Ball is back now, so that makes it a little bit tougher if they put Lonzo on him. But even if they put Drew Holiday, so, I mean, these guards on New Orleans will play defense, right? More so than the team as a whole. And now that they're healthier, some of their defensive team stats are a little skewed. Lonzo played 30-plus minutes for the first time since returning. Last game, I think he played 33. Drew Holiday should stay at the 2. So those two will primarily be, I would imagine, stuck on Luka Doncic in this one, but it doesn't really matter, right? I mean, you had LeBron guarding Luka Doncic, and the guy still dropped damn near a triple-double by, like, one assist. He didn't get the triple-double Luka, so I think it's fine. Luka's fine in this spot. And then I also really, really, really like Kristaps Porzingis at 6,500. He's had, like, a rough, like, an average week over the last week, below average if you've been playing him at his 7+ K price point on fantasy or on fantasy draft or Draftkings, really. And then, so for Dallas, my priorities are Luka and Kristaps. It's like 1A, 1B. The whole team is in a really good spot. Do you want to play Dwight Powell, who's probably in the best matchup on the slate against New Orleans, and Jahlil Okafor / Jackson Hayes? I really don't, but there's value in that. Tim Hardaway Jr. stands out. He's been consistently playing 30-plus minutes. I think he's coming off of a 31-minute game. So I prioritize this team today, probably as Kristaps, Luka, and then Tim Hardaway. It doesn't mean that Luka is a secondary interest. He's still a priority for me. It's just Kristaps, so it's $5,000 cheaper, so he's easier to get into more of my lineups. On the New Orleans side, I do think they put Brandon Ingram at the 4 with no Kendrick Williams today, no Derek Favors. I think that means that you get J.J. Redick and or Josh Hart starting at the 3, depending on what they want to do there, with Lonzo at the 1 and Drew at the 2. So I like Brandon Ingram the most. He's still at reasonable $8,100, and now he's playing at the 4, which is much better. You don't have to rely on him securing rebounds from the 3 and knocking down shots from the 3. Now he's going to be playing right next to the rim, and he's going to have all the opportunity in the world in a favorable matchup here. The problem with him is moving to the 4 in terms of just set pieces. He'll see more of Kristaps with Porzingis, which is not great for him. Definitely not the same Kristaps that he was in the Knicks on defense, but still very solid. So it's not great for Porzingis there, or for Brandon Ingram against Porzingis. But again, this is going to be one of the highest total games, one of the highest scoring environments on the slate. I don't know how many set pieces are really going to impact the overall production of Ingram. I like Ingram the most here. I do think Josh Hart is fine. If he starts, even better for him. He's just going to see more minutes. He's going to play 30-plus minutes regardless, even if he comes off the bench, because of the injuries to this rotation still with Kendrick Williams. And in general, they've been giving him big minutes, even in the beginning part of the season when he was a little bit injured. The price point is probably fair, $5,100, I believe, for Josh Hart, somewhere in that range. So I think that's okay. Lonzo Ball is still too cheap in the 5K range, coming off of a 33-minute game. I prioritize this team right now for me as Brandon Ingram, Lonzo, and then Josh Hart. If you end up getting to any Drew Holiday, I think it's completely fine. I guess the last thing I will say is Jackson Hayes. If he is listed as the starter, really whoever's listed as the starter, whether it's Okafor or Hayes, that center will also have interest of me. I have more interest in Hayes because I think he's just less, we saw it in the last game, less likely to get pulled at half for somebody else. So Jackson Hayes would probably become a priority over Josh Hart in that order that I just ranked. Some other high total games or high total teams here. You have Houston at a 115.25 team implied total. They have just an insane pace for this game. A 109.14 projected pace here, the highest on the slate by almost 5 possessions for each team. They're 4-point favorites, 226.5 overall game total. San Antonio on the other side, the 4-point underdogs, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time start, 111.25 team implied total. Houston, you have a fine, fairly priced Russell Westbrook at $8,800 if you want to try and prioritize that. I do prefer Luka over Harden on the top end, but you just saw Harden score 60 points and damn near, what was it that night? I don't know, probably in the 90s in fantasy points, so I have no issues. If you want to go to Harden over Luka, Harden will be in my lineups. It's just not too sure right now how many, 12 hours before lock or so. So, yeah, it's just those two guys. The guy that I really want to look more into is Clint Capella coming back today. He's just been dominating so much. And this hurts Russell Westbrook, right? The rebounding rates seem to be impacting Russell Westbrook more than Capella, which is the opposite of what you saw in OKC when Steven Adams was just getting absolutely murdered by Russell Westbrook, taking all of his rebounding chances and dropping his rebounding rate. So Capella now, price dropping a little bit. Capella now, it gets even better if there is no LaMarcus Aldridge. Even if there is, I think it's still fine. So Capella is somebody that's a little bit sneaky for me on the slate. Again, he's priced up in that high 7K range, but look at his stat sheets. The guy's just picking up like 20 rebounds a game when he is healthy. So unreal. I think that Capella is sort of a sneakier play on the slate. McLemore priced up in the 5K range, no interest. PJ Tucker at $4,600 is always a guy that you can just get to, right? He's probably going to play 34, 35 plus minutes, especially when there's injuries to this rotation still with Eric Gordon. And now you have probably no Daniel House Jr. If House Jr. plays, he went from doubtful to questionable with an illness. I think he's fine at his price point too. He's in the low 4K range. I feel much better about that than trying to play Ben McLemore off of a big game at $5,100. So lots of pieces of Houston stand out today. I think for me, if you want to get to Harden, it's fine. I don't really have a strong stance on him, getting to him or not. I just prefer Luka for a little bit cheaper, more here. Again, you can reference, but Harden scored 60 last game. Okay, well, if you think Harden's going to score 60 every game, then you should lock him in 100% every single game, right? I think that in 60 real points, not even just fantasy. I think that there's a really good chance Luka scores 65 fantasy points today, and at 11,300, that's just too cheap. So I think both of them are fine. I probably prefer Clint Capella over Westbrook today, personally. Going over to another game, Washington and Orlando, another nice total, 226.5. Washington 1.5 point favorites here. Above average pace in this one, 104.14 possessions I have. It's about one possession more than the league average per team. 114 team implied total for Washington, and a 112.5 team implied total for Orlando. So both teams, it's just going to be a close game here. Washington, the pieces that stand out are Thomas Bryant, and it's a somewhat tough matchup, difficult matchup, but if you have no Mo Wagner, he's just going to be forced to play more minutes unless he gets into foul trouble, which he does early and often, I guess you can say. But Thomas Bryant stands out. If there is no Mo Wagner, Rui Hachimura, Davis Bertans, they would also stand out as secondary interests. The Orlando side, like Evan Fournier, he's 6,200. He continues to just produce at a huge clip since, when Aaron Gordon was out but now returning, but also just with no Nikola Vucevic out there, production is being siphoned off to all of these guys, and Evan Fournier seems to be the one benefiting the most, with Michael Carter-Williams being out for about a month now and just his 6 to 8 minutes of the point guard rotation being gone, Markelle Fultz has been seeing a stable 30 minutes a game. Seen 29 or more minutes in each of the last 4, 30 in 3 of those. And now he gets a good matchup against Washington. He's priced up a little bit, but nowhere near as much as, I can't get to him. I do like getting to a Markelle Fultz here if he's going to play 30-plus minutes, and who knows how much more they give him after that. Aaron Gordon is fine if you want to get there. Jonathan Isaac is a secondary interest to me, but now he's back in the 6K range. If you do get Mo Bamba starting over Khem Birch, that's where I would go. So to boil this game down, Washington, Thomas Bryant stands out. And then just if you have no Mo Wagner, I'd probably get to a little bit more Rui and Davis Bertans. And then Orlando, the things that stand out the most to me are 1, Evan Fournier, 2, Markelle Fultz, and then 3, Aaron Gordon. If you get Mo Bamba starting at the center there, he would probably jump to number 2 behind Fournier for me. That's it for the higher total games. I think we talked about, out of these 7 games, probably 5 or 4 of them. You could look at the target offense sheet if you're listening, screenshot it just to kind of evaluate everything else that's going on. But I'll get to the early interest here. And in pricing order, I'll give you here 18 players that stand out as, for one reason or another, interesting to me. It could be because I really like them. It could be because I want to think more about them. Usually those players are marked in yellow if you're looking on the YouTube version. Be sure, before you do leave, who is your 6K play of the day? Leave it in the comments. Leave it on a review over on the audio version. Review yet again if you need to. If you already have reviewed, you can leave another one. You can leave it over there. Who's your 6K play of the day? Leave a Twitter handle, leave a way, PayPal for a way for me to contact you. And you have to be subscribed to the audio version or the YouTube channel to be eligible to be entered into that contest. I will be giving away $20 via PayPal or Venmo, whatever it might be, on Friday's video to somebody who is entered throughout the week. I'll take up all the entries. If you've entered like 4 times, don't spam it with 30 comments. I'll just delete your name from the sample. You do it 1 per video. I'll collect them, and then you can put it into a wheel. So I've been doing that since yesterday's video. Thank you to everybody who has participated. Early interest, Luka, 11,300 on DraftKings. I think that's fine. Point guard, small forward eligible once again now. You get that small forward part. He just fits into all your places. Really high total. Second highest on the slate, 118.75. I think it's a fine spot. This interesting range here of the 8K range I dropped down to after that. Like I just dropped everywhere in the 9K range. Doesn't stand out too much to me. In that 9K range, you have some interesting pieces, of course. Andre Drummond at 9,100 I think is fine. You have Anthony Davis priced down to 9,600 against Denver. Difficult matchup, but Davis is pretty much matchup proof as long as he's healthy. So Anthony Davis should probably be on this list. You can put him on there if you'd like. Paul George at 8,200. I think that's a really cheap price tag. But then you have Ingram at 81 and Whiteside at 8,000. I'd rank it in this order, probably George, Ingram, and Whiteside like you see in the pricing. But I want to look more into Whiteside, like I said, some of his rates, see if this block upside is actually something that we can rely on with Carmelo playing in front of him. Brandon Ingram at 8,100. It's just nice. He's going to play this power forward today. You could roster him as a small forward, so he'll be playing near the power forward position, which probably in his rates and things like that, rebounding rates, bumps him like 1 to 2 fantasy points in a projection, and you get to roster him at small forward where you just get more power forwards in your lineup. That's usually good. Paul George over Kawhi for me. Clint Capella drops to 7,800. Depending on what ownership looks like, if Whiteside's coming in highly owned, even at an elevated price point where he's relying on blocks, I'll probably go to a lower owned $200 less Clint Capella. He's definitely going to be lower owned today if I had to guess. He's just been injured for so long. People haven't seen him produce as of late. So I think, and then also he's on the team with Westbrook and Harden. So I think if he's low owned, he's a nice option to go to. Fred VanVleet's price point dynamically priced down. He's coming off a 249 point fantasy performances, but now he gets to go up against Miami, which is a tough spot without a doubt. No Deion Waiters though. You're still going to have no Goran Dragic, but it's still a tough defense to go up against. He'll probably see a lot of rookie Kendrick Nunn, which is fine for Fred VanVleet. You can roster him as a shooting guard. He's going to play probably 40 minutes in this game, so he's definitely in play at the reduced price point now. Blake Griffin. There's been some people on Patreon saying that Blake Griffin has been just a pain for them over the last week. Look, he's priced down. He was just coming off of an $8,000 price tag. Now he's at $6,700, and last game blew out, so he didn't see full run. He didn't play the last 15 minutes. He's going to play 32, maybe even 34 one of these days in a game if it stays close here. A 108 team implied total, an above average pace spot. I think that Blake Griffin at 6,700 is a really nice play, only power forward eligible, which is annoying, but if it said power forward center, I wouldn't roster him as a center anyways. So yeah, Blake Griffin's in play. Kristaps Porzingis I like a lot here against New Orleans. You're not going to find a better game environment. A 118.75 team implied total, a decent pace spot. Slightly below average pace spot, actually. But at 6,500, you're just not going to find a guy who can play in this one 32 minutes at a 1.2 fantasy point per minute, 1.25 fantasy point per minute production, and he has a 25% usage rate, right? So I just like it. His price point dynamically priced way too far down after a couple of bad games. Evan Fournier, 6,200, shooting guard, small forward eligible. He's been more ball dominant. He's seeing a ton more usage with no. He's seeing a ton more usage on the year. He's been leading this team with no Vooch out there. He's seeing all of it. 25.4 in the year, averaging over 30 minutes a game. I think you get Fournier here for a nice 32 to 34 minute game with a lot of production in a beneficial matchup against Washington. Will Barton didn't really talk too much about Denver in the Lakers game. Barton's just been consistently balling out all season long. You get an above-average pace spot, 6,100 starting at small forward today. It'll be a tough matchup for him. I do prefer Fournier. I do prefer Porzingis. But after that, Barton in that range is nice. I have a feeling a lot of people are going to put Kristaps Porzingis as their favorite 6K play of the day. Let's see if anybody gets different. 5K range is a lot of guys in here. So Thomas Bryant, we already talked about him. Fine spot against Orlando. Probably more stable minutes if you get no Mo Wagner. You probably are looking at Thomas Bryant securely going to play a 32-minute role. But again, secure only if he stays out of foul trouble. Lonzo Ball, 5,400, and Josh Hart on the same team, 5,300. They're going to play similar minutes. I'd imagine Ball plays probably now, since he was unleashed, to play 33, 32 to 34. Josh Hart off the bench, if he comes off the bench, probably going to play around 30 to 32. So I think the upside, similar prices on both sides of Fantasy Draft and DraftKings. I think the upside is probably for like a higher ceiling game there for Josh Hart, but just like a median projection at 5,400 for Lonzo to get you a little bit above median, like 30 points. I think he gets there more than Hart, just based on the fact that Lonzo will close out. Tim Hardaway Jr. at 4,600 and PJ Tucker at 46, both of value today at the same price point. I would prefer, honestly, probably Tim Hardaway Jr. I think that they're both pretty stable in terms of their production in minutes now. Seems like Tucker's going to play 35, but with Capella coming back, Tucker moves away from the basket more, will be set for his in-the-corner three-point shooting to rely on a lot of his higher spiking games or his spikes in his production. I'll prefer Tim Hardaway. And then in yellow, I have Jackson Hayes at 4,400 and Kevin Porter Jr. at 35. Porter Jr. is on Cleveland. He will fill in for Cedi Osman, who is questionable today if he misses. I imagine he will fill in. We'll see what they do. I don't think they'll be running lineups out where they have Larry Nance at the 3. But just keep an eye on it. And they're already thin at small forward. Like, you already have Porter having to play 18 minutes off the bench and take up all of Osman's minutes. He's not playing at the 3. So now if you have no Osman, you probably have Porter playing 30 minutes if he starts. Again, it's a big if. Watch what happens there. But 3,500 right now in this slate, a shooting guard, small forward. He's at least in play. If he was to start, I think he plays 30 minutes or so. So he's at least in play today. It's not a lock. A guy starting at small forward is never great, nowhere near compared to starting at power forward, center, or point guard, but it's still 30 minutes of production at that price point. Jackson Hayes in yellow. I'll like Jackson Hayes if he starts against Dallas. If not, I probably won't get there, but he's only 4,400. If Jahlil Okafor starts over Jackson Hayes, just know that you're taking a risk, but I'd still go back to Jahlil Okafor and not just base it off of the last game's sample. So that's where I'm at right now. Those are 18 players. I appreciate you all tuning in. Be sure to leave your 6K play of the day linked up in the comments below or on the podcast reviews. Hit that subscribe button. You must be subscribed to enter that contest. $20 will be awarded via PayPal on Friday after the episode. So thank you so much. Follow me on my social medias. Hit the link down below to check out my Patreon. There are free strategy guides also down below that you can check out. This is the Tuesday 7-game NBA slate breakdown for, as I look at the date, December 3rd. It is now 7:23. I'll get this video and podcast up to you all immediately. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out, gang. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed that video. Above my head, if you're not already subscribed to this channel, I do ask you if you can please hit that subscribe button. Helps me out a good amount to reach more people. You can also follow me on Twitter. That's over there. Right in the corner is my @SalVetriDFS Twitter. And then above, you'll find my Patreon link. You can click on that if you want more exclusive content for me. Or a video is going to pop up, so why don't you check that one out as well. I think it's going to be beneficial for you. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.